Hey folks, this is Morgan from MorganOnScience.com and MetaMorgan on Twitter, and today I want to talk about graduate students and timelines. So there's been a big push at a lot of universities to shorten the timeline for graduation of PhD students. And I can understand the reasoning and the motivation for this, which is that there were many students who were staying in school for far too long, for year after year, and not really finishing and not really getting the work done, and just sort of dragging it on and on and on. And I think universities thought that looked bad, or think that looks bad, because in some sense it does look bad when you have a bunch of people who just never sort of finish. But there are some ramifications of these policies of pushing people out the door. I just had a discussion with a colleague about this, about how many students each of us has had who have graduated and gone out the door with their PhDs, never really having finished their papers. And then getting those papers finished after they're out the door is nearly impossible. And this actually, it hurts the lab, but it also really hurts the student, because then they go on in their life, they did all this work, they spent all this time, 4 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever, working on their science and developing their science, and then they have nothing concrete to show for it. I mean, the thesis is not going to ever be read by anybody. I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. People don't read theses after the fact. And so they go out into the real world, and you know, maybe they get a job initially, but then what happens for future jobs that they're looking for when they don't have any publications to show? And you know, it's really unfortunate that the whole timetable really forces us to artificially accelerate this. Some students just aren't ready at whatever artificial time frame that a department or a university has put forth. I think here it's 6 years, and it can sometimes be extended a little bit longer than that. You know, it's a lot of time, but it takes a lot of time to develop as an independent scientist. Some people do it rapidly. Some people take 6 years. Some people might take 10 years. Some people may never do it. But I think pushing people out prematurely and saying, well, you know, they've got to finish, and you know, finishing them or graduating them is more important than whether they have papers or have actually completed their science work. It's a real shame, and it's really unfortunate. I think that it would be really good to have universities extend the deadline a bit. Maybe there should be a committee that looks at it and says, well, in this case the person is making progress. As long as they're making progress towards that goal, then we shouldn't have this artificial deadline imposed. Although I know that then everybody would say, oh no, but our funders would say we have all these, you know, 6, 7, 8 year students. Well, the question is, what are we training students for? We're training them to be great scientists. And if we're pushing them out the door because of funders or this or that, then are we actually training them to be the best scientists that they can? My answer to that is no, I don't think so. I think that, you know, if it's a student who's never going to finish, yes, we should push them out the door. But if it's a student who just needs that extra time to really wrap up their science and learn how to do it and learn how to get it published, then that's a really, really important function. And we should be taking that time and not putting these artificial constraints on it. So that's my soapbox for today. And with that, I'll sign off. This is Morgan from MorganOnScience.com and MetaMorgan on Twitter, and I hope to see you tomorrow for the next episode. Bye-bye.